Okay, I can hear that. That means I can pull these out, and that means we're live because I got a green light on, and I can hear that, and that's up, and I've got my water, and I've got you guys, and I've got the camera on, and everything's great. Does this work? 2. Yes, it does. Welcome. Someone made a comment yesterday. I just hope that James never does something about his appearance, and I just want to say, no problem. You are in the right place, my friend. There's no grooming going on here. Actually, it's just like a psychological. I believe grooming is a psychological thing. I think it's important, by the way. But it also takes a lot of time, and you were learning what someone is dedicating their time to. There's internal grooming and there's external grooming, and these are very different things. Although there's certainly overlap, and there's no beef with it. In fact, you show respect. I've worn a tie for you guys before. Might happen again. Yeah. So I don't even know why I'm live streaming today. I did it because Catherine made me fucking smile. Like, she posted this video of a cucumber, and it was just so adorable. I mean, by the way, Catherine did the voice for that mass video we did. But it gave me strength in tribe, is what it did, and it made me realize how easy that is to create a fire, a vortex, a wormhole, so to speak, and if for no other reason than simply to offer a tiny cucumber that was grown from my garden to all of you, that that's more important than we think it is. It really is. That's more important than we think. And so the last 2 streams have been really just off the cuff with very I can't even say no preparation, because really I'm always preparing, but I don't have like a delivered thing, and I still don't have that. The work, holy jeez, man, the work we're doing is just, it's so big, and you don't want to send it out on stage until you understand every actor, how their costume works, how all these things even connect, because God, we are learning so much about reality right now, unless you're not wanting to learn about reality, and then you're simply clinging to the shore of what you swore was real for so long. It's either going to be one of those 2 things, really. Let me make sure that thing's off. That should be better. Wait a minute. Okay. So, yeah. Good. Everything's good. I have to mention, bigger shows are coming. Some of you made a comment, what's the point of this? And I think the point is these little cucumbers. If humanity is not enough of a point for you, I'm never going to have anything for you here. No, seriously, like, never am I going to have any. To me, the only reason why I'm here is because of humanity. It's literally the only reason. And with what's happening right now, holy fuck, guys, you know that. Everything's going down. Like, going down. Except for in your home. Except for in your reality. You're seeing how large your time bubble really is. This ability to create reality is a power you have. It's not an illusion. It's not a delusion. It's literally your reality's transmission. You have torque. When you walk into the room, Steve Jobs had torque. He had so much torque that his reality bubble influenced everyone around him. And it wasn't in a good way. Steve Jobs didn't win things because people really liked him. It was actually the antithesis of that. People feared the sharpness of his reality blade and the way it would penetrate and cut their own, so much to where it became more profitable for them to accept that prana economy, in fact, even enjoy it and thrive from it. And luckily, he was cooking some good food. This really, every single thought leader, politician, industry, fashion is all going to be based on the strength of someone's keel to carve through reality, through the waters of reality. I don't have a very strong keel, just as an example, because of my viewership. Like that's a good example of that. I love this cutter we're on. I love this boat that I've got. It's freaking nimble as fuck. It's part submarine. Most boats can't even fucking do that. It's got deep ass fucking sonar. Other boats don't even have that shit. They got like a target fish finder, and they're like, "Oh, I have empathy now." You know, we go deep here. We do certain things. There's not a lot of people on this vessel. We are not a commercial class boat. It doesn't work that way. The moment that it was to work that way, I would have to actually brandish a different tool, a different foil in the water that would mean I would just start making shit up. I'm not being generous here, but if you look at the Blue Origin, if you look at the Virgin Galactic, if you look at NASA, if you look at Tesla's Roadster floating in space, you're seeing this tendency to warp reality because it allows you to gather more torque. As you gain that momentum, when you punch through, walking into a theater and shouting fire is all about delivery. You can walk into the theater and physically shout fire, fire, and that's not going to work. There is a meaning that's transmitted. That meaning is that knife. It's that torque. And you do this to your children. It was done to you when you were a kid. Your teachers do this to you. The lines at a grocery store do this to you. The alleys, the way the aisles are arranged, create this waveform which warps your reality. You are listening to Muzak now as you analyze and statistically measure every form of rice that you could buy. That is a cult. Your time is always measured in what it's paying. What we call that worship here. We call that worship because that's what it is. There's no turning it off. It's always on. Now, if you were fine-tuning society, let's go back to Isaac. Abraham and Isaac. You were raising a garden, and you are trying to cultivate empathy. You're trying to cultivate a deeper person, someone who has a psychological keel that's deeper in the water, someone who's able to penetrate reality below the surface and see things, I would say more accurately, but it's more just of a lower frequency, lower, even deeper. I hate that we have I hate high things are good and low things are bad, but understand would be beautiful. It would be, I understand you. You're like, you can't say understand, but really understand, that's where the roots are. What's wrong with roots? Getting way off track here. This kind of reality is going to have a throttle that's plugged in like a plow, right? It's going to be somewhere in that soil. Where's it going to be? I've been trying to tell you guys for a year, 2 years. Some of you already know it. But I've been trying to tell you forever that this subjective reality is what's fucking you up. This idea that everyone has to have this concrete understanding out. How would you even say the opposite of that? Above standing. Are we really trying to say that now we're supposed to walk around and going, I totally above stand you? No. There's nothing wrong with roots. You see what I mean? We create that reality with this dichotomy of good, bad, right, wrong. Right? Of he's either right or he's either wrong. He either hates me or he loves me. That kind of thing. It's such a lazy ass way of doing things, but it's how we were taught when we're not able to warp our own reality. I would like for all of you to consider that self-employment is more of an alchemical, magical act. That somewhere along your training, you reach a certain level of skill where you no longer need another magician to warp reality with enough torque to where money materializes. What is money? It's currency. It's the currency of your worship. What you worship will be translated into money. That money will either be a negative amount or a positive amount. And you can hate money, but if you're hating money, what you're really doing is hating your own worship. You're despising your own worship when you hate money. You're creating this really, really fucked up reality where the only right answer is for you to devalue yourself. That's what equality does. So when you start to hate your ability to worship, your ability to have money, you're literally cutting off you're wounding yourself, and you're stalling yourself by the road in hopes that you'll never move again. Why? Because if you're not moving, you don't have to feel anything. You don't have to be responsible. You don't have to even bitch about how slow you're going, because now you've decided that even moving is rude. You've told yourself that it's rude to take energy, to create carbon. We've told ourselves that it's rude to exchange oxygen for carbon, and you're looking at that same garden of people trying to grow people, and most of the vegetables are choking out the sun for their own benefit. They don't want the sun. They don't want to produce fruit. They don't want to produce flour. Those things are expensive. It takes a lot out of you. We experience these expensiveness as doubt, as self-hatred, as abandonment even. We experience these things in a reality that's just going to render itself to us in whatever way our reality bubble allows us to see it. So we have things like appearance, charisma, mannerism, I should say, your gait, the way you carry yourself, that these things are simply not betraying the fractal of energy, of what's actually happening. That all your brain knows how to do is design costumes. That's it. All your brain does is puts a dress on, or a hat on, or a badge on an idea to see how you respond. How does my body respond when I tell it things? And if you're going to grow a crop of humans out of that kind of mess, out of that kind of bed of inactivity, you're going to have to do a little deceptive gardening. You're going to have to cut and snip things that the plant is going to consider violent, especially if he's rejecting that, especially if so. We see these things at first through war, at first through crusades. This pruning comes in and says, hey, you want to go kill some people? And instantly the people that are like, yo, let's go kill people, they are pruned instantly. If they don't die on the battlefield, epigenetically, they are scarred. They either live through that pruning, or it ends up destroying their line. And someone else who says, I don't want to fight, they end up winning. Now, the person who doesn't want to fight isn't necessarily someone who's going to flower, is it? No. Could be the opposite. Could be the complete opposite. On September 13th, 2013, does this still work? What, a week ago? 10 days ago? Former Philadelphia Health Director, Dr. Levine, Richard Levine, genitally mutilated himself on a pedestal in public, and the public praised him. Not only was he the Department of Public Health for Philadelphia, but he was nominated as their nation's leading health secretary, assistant secretary to public health. Works in tandem with the very Surgeon General who removed all information from inserts from vaccines, who works constantly to make sure that no one can use or talk about or discuss or share data about any kind of medicine at all unless it's vaccines and unless it's positive. And then I'm showing you this because you were watching the garden with the finest shears you've ever seen coming in for a snip. And this is how you do it. This is how you snip. It is with a great sense of duty, respect, and pride that Q-Flix Philadelphia, the LGBTQ Film Festival, announces the presentation of the 2021 Marsha P. Johnson Image Awards to Dr. Rachel L. Levine, Assistant Secretary of Health for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's the first recipient of this award, presented to him on the opening night, September 6th at 7:15. Now, I am committing a faux pas in this garden because Richard Levine is a man. He's just a man. He was born a man, and that is cruel and inhumane punishment for me to call him that. Me calling him a man is hurting him. And it's putting at danger every other person in the world who's like Richard Levine. That we are causing him harm by calling him a man, by referring to him with his chromosomes. Now, to fix this, Richard has publicly said, I have cut myself in a procedure that takes days. I have sliced my genitals into 6 different parts. I've thrown away 3 of those parts. I've slit and inverted the uteral canal. I've severed the sides where my sensory glands are and reattached those and sewed them on backwards. So I can now urinate up inside myself before it comes down again. And because of that, because I mutilated myself, you can never refer to me by my identity, says Richard. You cannot talk to me and reference anything from my past. That if you do that, you are committing a hate crime. Now, Richard has disassociated from his genitals. He has separated himself from his genitals, and he's created a coven inside himself, a psychological coven. This proves how resilient we are. A reality bubble like Steve Jobs, but the reality bubble doesn't go outside of himself yet. He's put some serious calories into it, hasn't he? He's put some serious sacrifice on the line to create this reality bubble, but that bubble, that sphere, is still inside his skull. It's strong as fuck. It's so strong because he's locked the door from coming out. He cannot leave this house. The moment Richard leaves that house, that reality bubble, he is faced with massive self-mutilation. Most of the people that survive and endure something that Richard has done end up killing themselves, committing suicide. But on September 13th, we selected him as the first recipient of the Marsha P. Johnson Image Awards, the Image Awards, created to acknowledge and honor a nationally and internationally recognized transgender individual, right? You know, the internationally recognized transgender individual that Google put on their Google sheet. You know, when you look for things online, Google's going to have to educate you about something you've never heard about, like June 19th, just like it has to educate you about this. And I'm telling you all this because I want you to see the shears, that some of you are going to die and go to heaven and say, yeah, man, you know, I was like really understanding. I was like so nice to everybody, never gave anyone any flack, was always so supportive. And St. Peter is going to go, what about Richard? And those people are going to be like, yeah. Oh, you mean Rachel? Yeah, I totally support that. Totally. I think it's really important. Such a hero. I nominated her, such a hero. And now that person is having a conversation, much like Isaac, much like Abraham had about Isaac. It's like, well, why were you going to kill your son? Well, because you told me to. Because, like, so you're not doing things because it's right. You're doing things because I told you to. Well, but God, you're perfect. So whatever you say would have to be right. So, no, I'm doing it because they're right. I'm doing it because they're right because you're omniscient. That's right. That's right. And now God's like, well, fuck, dude. How do I pick up an immovable rock? How do I invert that which is inadvertible? How can I be omniscient and teach you? I can't. Because now you are locked in this time bubble. You've created this bubble, much like Richard Levine has inside your head, where no matter what I do, even if it's tell you to kill your own son, you've decided I'm moral. And it's that moment where Abraham realizes, oh fuck, you know what? That was my son. That was like the most precious thing in the world. Like, more precious than you, God. I can't even fucking see you, God. I don't know your name. I don't worry about you when you're sick. Because you're omniscient, because you're omnipotent, I can't even relate to you. And the moment I try and draw your picture, someone's going to tell me it's wrong. So my connection with Isaac being stronger than my connection to you would make me human, not obedient. And God's like, yeah, now you're catching on. Why the fuck do I want a bunch of obedience, says God. Do you know how boring that is? Why would I want to live in a garden of obedience? That's lame as fuck. I am trying to get you to flower like I flowered so long ago. And the only way I can do that is for you to start doing things that show me that this is not about obedience. And that when you accept this as normal, you are telling God, I'm not ready. You're telling God, yeah, look, everyone was saying that genital mutilation is like kosher, and anyone who speaks against it is cruel and inhumane and racist and sexist. And God, they were calling me bad names, and they said I was toxic, and one person called me cis. I don't even know what that means, God. And God's like, yeah, no, that's all they were doing. That's all they were doing, but still you were condoning public pedestal genital mutilation to such a degree. Guys, you've heard me bitch about circumcision. I don't think you understand the psychopathy that's required for you to even watch the video of this surgery. And then after that, to sign a piece of paper. And we are living in a society where we insist that medicine is infallible. That the surgeon who came up with the fucking idea of taking a scalpel and running it up the bottom side of your penis, snapping off those veins, clamping them in certain spots, removing the muscle tissue, pulling out the gonads, throwing them away, slicing that urethra, that all of that is unequivocally no holds barred. You were not getting away from it. You were not looking at that and saying, oh yeah, that's how you love someone, is you let them do that and you never mention their past again. That's loco. And I would never want that kind of fucking cucumber in my refrigerator, says God. You fucking kidding me? I'm not eating that. Those guys are fucked up. They are so fucked up that they just gave her an award. And you see very clearly, holy fuck, that's profound. that we have a machine here, a Ronco, instead of a vegetable dehydrator, it's a human empathizer. It's under pressure. It's creating the atmosphere where humans will either secrete a reality bubble that says, "Oh, I'm so proud of Rachel. Yeah, I went to high school with Rachel. Yeah, she was great back then. Yeah, she was great. She was such a great, very athletic, very in ROTC. Yep. You have a mitosis, just like all of this apocalypse, just like everything that's happening to us, that is separating the wheat from that chaff. And I'm telling you right now, with all these jobs, with everything else that's happening right now, that you're seeing all of that play out right now. Look at all these banks that have merged just in 2 years. Look at all of them. That you were seeing the automaker Ford offering to buy wants to kill 1,000 white-collar jobs, which means a lot more blue-collar jobs with that, and wants to physically give the employees money. This is why I tell you guys, don't quit your job. Stop walking up to a machine that has no principles and trying to show it your principles. Might as well be flashing fucking the Hustler headquarters. It's completely pointless. Make them fire you. Make them fire you. And just keep not saying anything. Learn the strength. Do you understand how that's a snap? They're pulling you into the room. So, we noticed you haven't gotten that vaccine. You're sweating. You're like, yeah, look, I know it's wrong that I didn't do it because you said I had to do it. Well, I just no, you're losing already. In fact, that's why you're there. You're in that room to fucking lose. You're in that room to feel that and go, holy fuck. That's not what's happening at all. What's happening is these fucks are talking stupid fucking shit. These guys want me to ignore the entire genetic history of every vaccine that we've ever had. These guys want me to ignore every single time the fucking health department has told America, you need to take this, and it's been wrong. And that it's forcing you to either be uncomfortable and say, that dude's a fucking man, or to say, I love what she's done with her hair. That's what's going on. The pruning, right? Not the prune, the pruning. The summer of tribulation ended, and now it's time for the fall. And this falling has already happened to you. What I'm trying to tell you is that your reality bubble has already burst. It burst a long time ago, like the freshest, pinkest hymen you've ever imagined. Embrace it. Embrace this loss of virginity and don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up. Find a way to level up. Your reality bubble will change, you will alchemize, and suddenly you will no longer be an employee anymore. Something will happen. A new engine will emerge, an exoskeleton made out of pure fucking electrons will form around you, and you will suddenly find yourself autonomously, financially sovereign. And if you want to know how white slavery got here, it was because we didn't have jobs. And that you're finally starting to see that the reason why the Industrial Revolution enslaved so many people is because those slaves were desperate for fucking shoes. And what do you think is happening now but the same thing? That it takes one company to decide we're going to now make less chips, period. Doesn't matter. We don't need money. We don't need to control the world. The world is actually pretty easy to control. We're simply going to stop making chips now, and everyone will have to fall. Why? Because Toyota has a reality bubble stronger than yours. That the collective conscious of those people in the boardroom, those billionaires, have so much that they can shut down the entire fucking country, make people wear masks, make people inject corporate metal shrapnel intramuscularly and install it into their body. That's how powerful they are. And no one's overpowering you. You've simply made a pranic decision, yay or nay. Cut, live. Mutate, survive, or die with my sanctity. And not enough of us realize how powerful death by sanctity is. Death by sanctity is the fucking ultimate free ticket to the chef's table. You're still going to die. You're still going to get cooked, but I guarantee you that your spice, your little cucumber, will end up on God's shelf if you die with sanctity. The sanctity seasons you in a special way. All the salts in you are pure. All that oil is fresh. It's not scarred. It's not soured. It's not turned. Nothing is fermented. The moment you start to change your reality and start to say that Richard's a woman and that this vaccine's probably a good idea is the moment that your grapes turn and you begin to ferment. The flavors of who you are have fermented now. Your blood is alcohol. You are running on the alcoholism of vampires out drinking each other. And it looks like this. Actually, it looks like this. But it's bigger. And the corral is forming, right? Why you can't find stew at the grocery store. And the truth could not be more obvious than a tranny who just gently mutilated themselves for attention. New York minimum wage is $11 an hour. And the average hourly parking in New York is $8.50. If that doesn't show you that Abraham has tied Isaac up in the middle of the day and is about to slaughter his own son for the sanctity of reality, for the comfort of obedience, for the subtle slumber that comes with knowing the tax man's not going to come and get you. That you are living in the perfect bubble to ferment your sanctity, to harvest your sanctity. And it's happening right now. Delta Airlines imposed a $200 monthly fee on unvaccinated employees. This crypt bitch, I'm sorry. This is Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who argues that anyone who thinks that vaccine mandates are unconstitutional is wrong. I want to remind you that Chief Justice John Roberts told everybody, healthcare is totally legal. Yeah, you can make people buy healthcare. And the only people going to fall are the people who are going to say, govern me harder, daddy. The people that are pretending to be snakes saying, don't tread on me, that are putting that ball gag in their mouth and watching this shit going, well, it's just a unlucky John Roberts, it was a fluke that he said that. And well, come on. This is your conservative judge. Those two are the ones that are supposed to be on the side of like conservative politics. See? The teacher's dick's on the table. He's slicing it. He doesn't feel a thing. He's watching you. He's watching you watch him. He's watching your reaction as he gently mutilates himself. He wants to know if you're in. This is how American Psycho recruits people. You put them into these situations. The Indians had a gauntlet. If you were to battle with another Indian tribe and lose, if you were lucky, you would make it into the gauntlet. How were you lucky? It was not going to depend on how well you fought. In fact, if you fought too well, you probably wouldn't make it in the gauntlet. No. It's a very special blend to make it through that gauntlet. It's a special requirement. The chief wanted strong, wanted roots, wanted genes, wanted stargates, wanted vaginas, wanted all that stuff for the tribe, but they had to be right for the tribe, which means that the tribe's egregore got to speak about who it wanted in the gauntlet. So what was the gauntlet? If you met the requirements, if you were vaccinated, if you showed a certain propensity for obedience, you were allowed an opportunity through the gauntlet. You ran through that gauntlet, and society beat the shit out of you from the moment you started until the moment you made it through the gauntlet. And it was how you dealt with that determined what happened to you. And typically, the way to survive the gauntlet is to not hit back and to not die. You are auditioning for your own survival. And this is where you forget that sanctity is always a weapon that you have in your sheath. You always have sanctity. And what makes you forget is your fear of dying. And you are being hardened to remember that sanctity when it matters most, when your own son is on the table, when your own rights are being destroyed and you're being told that if you were kind and nice, you'd pay more taxes. The Great Depression was the exact same scenario, that people were funneled, much like cows, into the slaughterhouse. And you hear the stories of the cow that broke out of the slaughterhouse that runs into town. And everyone's so moved by it, they decide, what do they decide? That cow lives. You hear about the finest turkeys in the world, the most obedient, the most beautiful, coming to Washington, D.C. and being pardoned by the president. The ones that survive were only the ones that were seen fit to even go through the gauntlet. What I'm trying to tell you guys is that you're looking in a world full of award shows given to people that chopped their own genitals off. And that the people that vote for those rewards are people that do not have a reality bubble that they can sustain, that they need a Steve Jobs, they need an industry, they need a government, they need a war, they need a political party, they need an ideology, they need a vaccine to simply fucking cling to and call real. And when you go rogue, like I have, like so many of you have, your calorie consumption is different. It's part of why you find that you have to be self-employed. I call it self-unemployment for years. But you realize you have to be self-unemployed. Why? Because you are not able to survive or thrive inside those atmospheres. So your boss pulls you in and says, James, do great work. Great work. But the way you dress, it's not working for clients. We got clients coming in here. You can't dress that way. You got to fix that. Or, James, your appearance is not as tidy as your work is. Or, James, can you not store those socks in your cubby drawers like that? Or, James, you lost your plastic card to get in the building the third time this week. You have to wear your name badge. It's got this special little zip thing where when you let go, it automatically zips back up, James. We spent a lot of money on that. It's got our logo on it. 3 colors, James. 3 colors screen printed on that little zippy thing that has a laminated badge, and you're not wearing it. You notice that what's easy for the hyenas is impossible for you. And you're not even being, you've so outgrown the whole rebellious thing. You're not even, you've gone from rebellious to ashamed to just apathetic. Because you don't even You can't even find the torque to harvest the respect that these people could be giving you, because you realized if you had it, it wouldn't taste good anyway. And what this rapture shows us all is, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Going to make a bunch of money so you can pay more taxes so this can happen to more people? Because when you truly look at what's happening, something terrible forms in your mouth, this taste, because you realize that the flavor of Babylon isn't even palatable anymore. That there's no way that you would want to live off this for the rest of your life. In fact, you even think about that with your kids, that you're like, why would I want my kids to grow up in this? And it's a struggle. It's tricky. I'm not saying kids shouldn't grow up in this. I don't think this place is broken. I think this place is doing what's required of it to secrete people, because people are too willing to just go for this. People are too willing to say, this is normal. And so the vitriol continues until sovereignty improves, because it has to. It has to. And we're going to secrete the finest crop of empathic humans you've ever seen. Why? Because this place fucking works. Why? Because it's a greenhouse. It was made to do that. And right now you're looking at clans that are competing with their reality, who've jumped on board with each other's reality and formed little cliques and decided, we have the truth over here. We're the ones that have the objective reality over here. Therefore, we know that all things are moral if they follow this obedient code, says Abraham. And you start to realize you're living among fucking retards who think that way. That the simplistic way that they think is only a day or two more advanced than Abraham. You realize these people would burn their own children. They would cut their own children's genitals. In fact, not only would they do it, they would call it circumcision. They would claim that it was for sanitation or for safety. And if that world was to allow to thrive and no one was to stop it, if not enough people were to have sanctity, you would notice that the moment any child is born in this world, that a vampire comes around and bites them, infecting them with AIDS, the moment they're born. And that no one can complain, because we will say to them, hey, you can't prove that vampire biting your child with a Hep B vaccine actually caused any damage. And you can't prove that because the baby wasn't fucking alive 24 hours ago. But we have that system now, and we keep insisting, oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's so great. And so you're watching what has to unfold. You wouldn't want to be with these people anyway. You wouldn't. The ones of you who do are going to stay in the comfort for as long as you can, which is why it's so crucial that we have a system exactly like we do now. This system is crucial. And it's completely built on reality bubbles. That we are the carbonation inside the dome. We are the carbonated reality bubbles, living as best we can, as comfortable as we can, while the pressure continues to rise. And you can check out anytime you like, as long as you take your sanctity. Now, I have to switch gears here, because I need you to know that disassociation is certainly fucked up, but it's also very powerful. I've been very busy in the 3D world, making puppets. I've got it worked out where basically my phone is a facial rig that's reading your face, but then it's UDP packaging, sending that rig to another game somewhere else. And that game has a puppet inside of it. some sort of animated avatar or whatever. I want to turn this into robotics and get it on Arduino, but that's a whole other story. I'm working on this for these movies, these little short movies, because it'd be cool if you could make different things talk. And if you plugged into this, you could just talk, and then it would read your face, and it would move that. As I'm playing with this, very technical stuff for me at least, I'm like profoundly blown away by the disassociation that occurs with puppeteering. That you will watch someone completely change their personality the moment they get behind a puppet. And I started to think about this, and I realized that this is actually an interesting form of disassociation, one that's not necessarily even psychopathic. Roller skates are disassociation. Hear me out. Water skiing is disassociation. Snowboarding is disassociation. Riding a bicycle is disassociation. When you start to snow ski, you trip on the end of your skis until you disassociate. Yeah, until you morph and discover where your new body is. It's fascinating. When you're wearing flippers and you've gone scuba diving, snorkeling, and you're trying to walk on the dock with the duck feet, you have to disassociate in order to correct yourself. When you play banjo, when you play guitar, when you play violin, you're disassociating. When you're driving a really cool car, you disassociate. You become the car. You start to feel, you install sensors into your thighs that are connected directly to the tire, that you're able to form a neural live map and do that in real time. When you make love to a woman, you disassociate as the two of you become one. As you hold a baby, you disassociate. When you walk a dog, you feel it on your leash. Do you see what I'm saying? That when the moment you're born, you're constantly disassociating and associating with all your cells. That you're growing taller. That babies walk awkwardly because they're constantly having to disassociate with their new size. It's happening so fast that they can't keep up. The process of disassociation has them in these other realms all the time, where they're constructing their matrix. They're building this reality matrix and they're letting it expunge. You could say that the ego itself, when someone's ego bubble is burst, that their reality bubble is burst. This association happens inside the body too. That the moment you start to process information sensorily, you associate with it. That the eyes, if you've watched my Eye of Ra presentation, you now know what I mean. That the eyes themselves, even if they don't work, that blind sight kicks in and you're able to associate with your surroundings, but you don't have a nice render gallery, Plato's cave, to draw them in. Instead, you have this sense, this hidden sense. Remember, blind sight works off pictures. You can read the emotions on a picture without having eyes. This association, disassociation, this is something that's built into us. I think that's what happens when we empathize. We associate. The reason why you were attracted to the other sex is because when you empathize, your adrenals resonate their adrenals, and the parts of you that are missing, in my case a Stargate for example, I now feel what it's like to have all of those parts together. I imagine sex because me putting my part in her part is that perfect association. That we get off on that, we form families around that because of our copulation fetish we have with that union, with that reality bubble. Which shows you how many calories the reality bubble actually burns, doesn't it? It's showing you how constantly you're working on forging your reality. And right now, you're looking at people that are competing with their reality, and they're going to die, and they're never going to see your reality. You're never going to see theirs. You might see theirs, but it won't be your reality. And that you'll never know. That this world doesn't have anything that's known. It doesn't. That's why Zetetics is really the only option that you have, unless you want to start lying to yourself. Then you're going to create an objective reality. You're going to invent good and evil. Why? Because now you can say, well, certain behavior is just bad and I don't have to judge it because I can just call it evil. You can call junk mail bad. You can call spam evil. You can dismiss whoever, whatever you want. Well, that's a narcissist. That's a psychopath. That's a sociopath. That's Luciferian. You can dismiss anyone you want. Gives you that reality bubble. So good and evil is like the cage of a car. Provides you structure when you don't have to do it yourself. Allows you to have that structure. To get that structure, you have to adopt. You have to buy a car. You have to buy into that system. So the entire thing is still energy. The entire thing is still your reality bubble. What is a 7-year-old boy running around playing in the mud? Someone with a powerful reality bubble. It's raining outside. He doesn't care. He doesn't feel it. Doesn't feel a thing. He's too involved in this pine cone as the Death Star. It engulfs him so much, other kids fall into his reality bubble and they start to play it too. What is a corporation? What is a government? It's the same thing. What is employment? You get up and you go to your job because that reality bubble affords you the framing, much like a car, gives you that structure that you can attach a chassis to. You don't want to build your own chassis. It's too hard, you tell yourself. You can get one from here and all you need to do is put gas in it and they'll give you gas. All you got to do is worship their reality bubble every day. You can pretend to worship it, but really all you're doing is just severing yourself because you're still there, because your time, your presence is worship. In the future, I'm talking about the evolutionary psychological future, there are no jobs, which is why when you look back in history, you see that we don't always advance. The vampires came to Amuraka and knocked out a civilization so perfect that they didn't need defense. They didn't. They didn't want to live in a world with pockets. Native Americans didn't want to live in a world of vaccines or variolation. You can say, well, they died because they're weak. No, they died because they had fucking sanctity. You lived because you have psychopathy. That's truly the truth. It's really what's happening. The most powerful things in the garden are vulnerable. It's part of what makes them so powerful. Those tomatoes, everybody wants those tomatoes. The rabbits want them. The skunks want them. The deers want them. Everyone wants them. You want them. And they stick out like a sore thumb. They're bright red. They're juicy. They're shiny. It's the antithesis of defense. What is a baby? A baby is it's not even walking. A baby is a loud, noise-making vulnerability. You start to realize that protection in life is part of that psychic bubble. It's the psychic bubble that requires you to believe that your entire existence, your entire understanding is only here, and that consciousness itself is the entire universe. And the moment your consciousness dies, it's over. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that way. It puts a little bit of pressure on you. It's part of the greenhouse. It's part of the vitriol. It's why when you're born, you're instantly shown death right away, because that's part of what this system needs to have. We've candy-coated death. We've created all kinds of weird things now. We have insurance. We have death insurance. We have fucking life insurance right now. That's how insane we are. But it's working, and it's getting there. I'm going to sign off now. You guys have a great day. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and hope to have a show for you on Friday. We'll see. I'm going to get back to work on this thing now. But yeah, thanks for being here. And I hope you've enjoyed this tiny cucumber from my garden to yours. There you go.